In an America Tonight exclusive, we turn now to Lauren McNamara, who has unusual insight into Manning's backstory, and she joins us now from Orlando. Lauren, we appreciate your being back with us. And we want to ask you about this because you are a really critical player. You helped in the defense of Bradley Manning, and we want to talk to you about that. The reason the lawyers brought you in is because Manning reached out to you.
Yes, he contacted me in February of 2009 after finding my videos on my YouTube channel. He found that the topics I discussed, such as politics and religion and LGBT issues, were something that he related to and agreed with me on. And he contacted me because of that. And for several months, until August of 2009, we spoke about those topics, about his political interests, perspectives on religion, and he told me very much about his life leading up to joining the military, as well as his current role in the military as an intelligence analyst at that time.
Let me interrupt you there. Did he specifically talk to you about any questions of his sexual identity?
He did not. At that time, he identified as a gay man, and he had a boyfriend, and that was all he ever mentioned about that. No issues of gender or anything of that sort ever came up.
He was talking to you at the time when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was still very much a part of military policy. Did he talk about his treatment within the military?
He did, yes. He spoke about being bullied in the military, especially given its very masculine and macho environment. And yet, at the same time, he said that he still believed in the overall mission of the military as a force for good that was composed of diverse people working together.
Now, you know that in the course of the testimony on his behalf, that some of the evidence that came out was that photograph that we saw in Sheila's report, the one where he's wearing the blonde wig, the one where he's describing himself as having a problem to his therapist and an alter ego as well. Did he mention any of that to you, or any feelings that he had that he was under particular pressure because of that?
He did not mention anything of the sort to me at any time, and there was no indication of that for me.
Sheila, can I go back to you on this, because you have read the testimony on this? Can you say what the therapist had said about his identity issues?
The therapist was an Army psychologist who first met Bradley Manning around the 30th of December 2009, so about 2 months or so after he first got to Iraq, and around the time when he's already in contact with Julian Assange. There's clearly a lot of things going on. It was his sergeant that suggested that Bradley Manning should meet with the psychologist, and he began to meet with him on a pretty regular basis, though not weekly for whatever reason. Schedules didn't work, Manning was working late, whatever. And it became clear to the therapist over the course of their meetings that Manning was not forthcoming. He was blocked, he was guarded, he wasn't fully trusting. Obviously, he's in a military environment. The rules are somewhat different in a military environment than they would be with a civilian sitting in a therapist's office. It finally came to a head in early May of 2009 when 2010 rather, when Manning actually struck a fellow soldier, and his sergeant woke the psychologist up middle of the night, and it was in the conversation that happened after that incident, a very serious incident in military law, that Manning confessed that he thought that he had an issue around his gender identity. It was shortly after that that the psychologist carried out a longer interview with him, diagnosed him with a gender identity disorder, and then with his commander began making moves to discharge him, making sure he could keep his security clearance so that he would be able to find work in the civilian world.
Lauren, I want to go back to you quickly before we run out of time here, and that is just to ask, even though he didn't specifically talk to you about his identity issues, did you have the sense that this was a young man under a tremendous sense of pressure about whoever he was within the military environment?
I would say that at the time I spoke with him, he seemed like someone who was very good at his job and very enthusiastic about his job. He did not express many struggles beyond difficulties with, say, computer systems that were malfunctioning, and his chief interest seemed to be doing his job as well as possible so that he could provide the most useful information to his fellow soldiers working in the field.
And supporting the truth as he understood it. Lauren McNamara, Sheila McVicker, we thank you both for participating in this discussion.